boy lost everything. He was abandoned as a child. His name was Zeha. He grew up alone, but everything changed when monsters began to appear. They emerged from the shadows and massacred humans. On that same night, a man appeared, saying that his parents had been killed. And even worse, it was Zeha who broke the seal that brought the monsters, because this boy has a special bloodline, capable of cutting down any monster with his killer instinct. On the lunar calendar, the 16th day of January marks the arrival of the visitors. Breaking the seal of the shadow world, the biome arrive once a year. Blending in among humans, they walk in disguise so as not to be noticed. Then they reveal their true forms and simply devour the nearby humans. Spreading complete chaos across the world, they destroy everything in their path. Before a portal, a man introduces himself, saying his name is Haru. Being a deity, he reveals that his role is to guard Mount Inwang. Someone then questions him about why the biome are still roaming free. With his hand prepared, he asks if the person truly wishes to know the answer. Pointing directly at the young man, Haru says that the reason is himself. He continues the explanation, stating that it was the young man who broke the seal. Touching the boy's forehead, he seems to transfer some important information to him. Changing scenes, a modern city is shown during a calm night. A hooded figure then appears and asks if he wants to know how his parents died. It becomes clear that if he had met him as a child, he would have accepted the offer. Returning to the past, he remembers the orphanage teachers avoiding his questions, but time changed everything, and he had much bigger concerns. In the rush to survive, he explains that his desire for the truth eventually died. Back in the present, he faces the man and simply tells him to get lost. Walking away, he complains that cults nowadays are very persistent. At that moment, the man calls him Zeha, revealing that he knows the mountain's secret. He then asks if it doesn't intrigue Zeha that he knows his name. Without waiting for an answer, he asks if Zeha remembers his mother being a shaman. Entering a flashback, he remembers his mother's embrace and his father's song. The memory continues, showing his mother's face as she smiled at him. But the happy memory changes, and his parents scream desperately for him to run. Coming out of the flashback, he feels a sharp pain and holds his head. Then the man places a hand on his shoulder and tells him to go to the mountain. He warns that the truth about his parents will be waiting for him there. Surprised, he asks what the man is, and something around him changes. A strange dark matter begins to move around his legs. He then realizes that it is the anniversary of his parents' death. Thinking about the encounter, he concludes that it cannot be just a coincidence. Determined, he says that he went straight to Mount Inwang that very night. Lying on a bed, he says that this is the last thing he remembers. Waking up afterward, he finds himself lying in a bed and asks where he is. With intense pain, he sits up and places a hand on his chest. He wonders why he is in a hospital with a wound on his chest. Not understanding the situation, he wants to know what the hell happened. At that moment, a man approaches and says he saw that Mr. Zeha had awakened. Showing a badge, he introduces himself as Detective Soo-hoon from the police. Zeha questions him, and the detective talks about the incident on the mountain 3 days ago. With a slight smile, the detective explains that he is the only one left. He reveals that everyone on the mountain died, making him the sole survivor. To prove it, he shows a photo with bodies lying on the ground. Seeing the photo, he becomes completely paralyzed as a drop of sweat runs down. The news reported that 24 bodies were found on the mountain that day. He is then informed that he was taken to the hospital as soon as he was found. Unable to get answers, the detective leaves the room, highly suspicious of him. Lying in bed, he wonders if the man from that night is connected to it. Looking at a photo, he concludes that there is a secret behind his parents' deaths. The second certainty he has is that the key to everything lies in the mountain. After a month passes, the scene shifts to a late afternoon in a remote place. Now out of the hospital, Zeha gets off a bus and walks through the town. He realizes that the crimes on the mountain were only the beginning. After that, several very similar cases started happening in other places as well. Reports showed that the victims had marks of claws and sharp fangs. Because the marks resembled those of an animal, everyone began to call it that. The entity responsible for all the attacks was now known as Biome. At the same time, a person walks calmly through the city streets at dusk. Arriving at the mountain, he reflects that he never thought he would return there again. His journey leads him back to the Biome Rock on Mount Inwang. Near the rock, he remembers having been there and notices something strange. Bringing his hand closer, he sees a crack and wonders if it was always there. Touching the fissure, he causes a light to begin emerging from it. Stepping back, he watches the light grow stronger and stronger. Suddenly, an explosion of energy bursts from the rock and throws him back. Feeling a burning sensation, he places his hand on his chest and wonders what is happening. The crack in the rock continues to shine with increasing intensity. A pillar of light rises from the mountain and shoots straight into the sky. Closing his eyes, he shields himself from the brightness that takes over everything. He then opens one eye, still adjusting to the light around him. Now sitting on the ground, he looks around as the dust dust begins to settle, a mysterious figure appears in front of him and directly asks who he is. Before him, an unknown man stares at him with a calm smile on his face. With a wide smile, he introduces himself as Haru, the Bayam rock of the mountain. Not understanding anything, Zeha simply stares at him with pure confusion. Closing his eyes, he thinks it must be a very stupid and embarrassing dream. At that moment, Haru touches his head, saying he has grown a lot since he was little. Grabbing his arm, Zeha asks how he knows about his old wound. Calmly, he replies that he was present when all of that happened that day. Zeha then asks if he was there during the murders, which Haru confirms immediately. Grabbing his collar, Zeha demands to know what a biom is and what happened. He then begins to explain that every year in January, the visitors always arrive. Once a year, the biom break the seal and invade the human world. Being a deity, he says that his role is precisely to guard that passage. Zeha then questions him, asking why the Bayam are still roaming free. Saying the answer is simple, he states that it is all in his memories. He then prepares his hand to touch the young man and give the answer. Touching his forehead, Haru reveals that it was Zeha who broke that seal. With the touch, a large amount of energy begins to pour directly out of him. Shifting into a memory, a man wonders what that thing around him is. Meanwhile, Zeha's father questions where all of it is coming from. A giant creature then says that the best course of action is to eliminate him. Back in the present, Zeha falls to his knees with Haru standing right behind him. Then a scream of pain can be heard throughout the dark mountain. Inside the memory, a monstrous creature shouts that it would be better to finish him off. With his hand on his head, Zeha realizes that his memories are finally returning. The scene then goes back to a month ago, at the Bayam Rock during the night. Arriving at the place, he comes across someone and finds that presence there strange. Taking another step, he says he didn't expect to find anyone there at that hour. Staring at the young man, the stranger keeps a very serious expression on his face. Suddenly, a faint sideways smile appears on the mysterious man's face. Pointing at the boy, he calls him by name and remarks how much he has grown. Not understanding, Zeha directly asks the man if he knows him. Taking a step forward, the man assumes that Zeha truly doesn't remember. With a focused gaze, he tells the boy to think a little more calmly. With glowing eyes, he insists and asks if Zeha really doesn't remember. At that moment, Zeha's eyes turn red, triggering an old memory from the past. In a brief recollection, he finally remembers the man as a friend of his father. The memory reveals that they used to meet frequently when he was just a child. Recalling that time, he remembers that the man was always very kind to him. Coming out of the flashback, he looks at the man and says, "It has been a long time." With a slight smile, his father's friend observes him very closely. He then says that now, the boy has finally managed to remember everything. Looking at the rock, he reveals that the boy's father belonged to the Biom tribe. He then explains that the tribe could only come out on the 16th of January. But everything changed after his father met his mother, the guardian of the gate. Being a shaman, she sang a special song to keep the gate always open. He reveals that his mother was human, but corrects himself and says she was from the Gam tribe. With a serious expression, he continues to stare at the boy without looking away. Then he asks if Zeha can sing the song that his parents used to sing to him. An old melody begins to emerge in his mind, along with the song's words. In another memory, he sees himself in his father's arms, hearing his calm voice singing. Back in the present, he softly sings a part of the old lullaby. The man completes the song and looks at him, waiting for the boy's reaction. The rock then begins to crack, releasing fissures of light everywhere. As the rock breaks, the entire mountain around them starts to tremble violently. With a victorious smile, he states that his plan has finally worked. In the dark sky, a portal begins to form, slowly spinning above. Spinning faster and faster, the portal prepares to open completely. Then a massive burst of energy crashes down toward the ground. Emerging from the portal, he calls all his fellow Biom to join him. Smashing the ground with his fist, a giant creature rises from within the portal. Behind him, a group of monstrous creatures appears and begins to growl together. Soon after, several other creatures of different forms also appear at the scene. Together, all the creatures roar at once, preparing for a massive attack. Celebrating the return, he says that his sealed power is finally coming back to him. He then calls Zeha closer with a very frightening smile. Transforming quickly, his hand grows long, razor-sharp claws. Lifting Zeha by the neck, he says that he was once locked away by a mongrel. He explains that with shaman blood, Zeha can close the gate again. For that reason, he concludes that the best course of action is to kill him. With a single strike, he hits him directly, cutting across his chest. Falling to the ground, the last thing he sees is the image of his parents. The transformed figure simply watches him from afar without showing any reaction. A wide smile of pure malice spreads across the creature's face. In a memory, a group of creatures hears their leader say that the time has come. Before everyone, he declares that they will restart the ancient war. He ends his speech by saying that the war was left unfinished 4,000 years ago. Lying on the ground, Zeha's body remains motionless after receiving the blow. Coming out of the vision, he breathes heavily with Haru still standing right behind him. Kneeling, he stares at the figure of Hoopo who appears right in front of him. With a cruel smile, he repeats that the best thing to do is to kill him. The memory returns, and a voice desperately screams for Zeha to run away. Then he remembers that it was Hoopo who took his parents' lives. With the truth revealed, a single tear falls as he stares into nothingness. In a memory, he recalls that since childhood, it was always a fact that he grew up alone. For a long time, he believed he had been abandoned, and that turned into resentment. With no one to comfort him, he endured everything until he forgot how to cry. As time passed, he decided that his parents were simply dead to him, but that was only a truth he created in order to endure everything. When Haru places a hand on his shoulder, all his hidden emotions surface. Saying he understands, Haru comforts him, saying that he has been through a lot. He continues, explaining that everything was taken from him, even his own memories, and that all his suffering was caused by the visitors who arrived that day. Inviting him, Haru calls for them to hunt the biome together. Terrified by the crimes, the city's people needed someone to blame. At a press conference, an important man takes the stage for an announcement. A reporter then asks about the company's position on the incidents in the city. Introducing himself as Huan Wung, he says he feels responsible for the ongoing crimes. He continues, stating that he knows full well the Bayam are behind this. Promising to end the situation, he offers a reward to anyone who hunts down the Bayam. On the streets, people question who would risk their life for 50 million won. Even with the incentive, most citizens were quite skeptical about the hunt. Back on the rooftop, Haru turns and calls to him so they can leave. Watching the horizon, he asks Haru to just call him by his name, Zeha. Elsewhere, a girl reads news about 3 more bodies that were found. Stopping suddenly, she becomes alert, noticing a strange movement nearby. Squinting, she laments not being able to see clearly without her contact lenses. Then she realizes what she saw was just a simple fire hydrant on the wall, but just above the hydrant, a strange black liquid begins to drip slowly. Feeling a drop, the girl looks up, not understanding what's happening. Hanging from the wall, a biome growls and prepares to attack the defenseless young woman. With a swift movement, the creature throws her far away with great force. A desperate scream then echoes alone through the city's dark streets. Suddenly, a gunshot breaks the silence, hitting something in the darkness. Hit by the shot, the monster growls in anger and glares in the direction of the gunshot. Holding a gun, Zeha celebrates the hit, while Haru thinks the weapon is strange. Leaping from the wall, the creature lands in front of the two and prepares to attack. With a watchful eye, Haru notices the movement and warns that the beast is coming. With its eye glowing, the creature focuses entirely on its 2 new targets. Rushing at high speed, the monster advances relentlessly toward them. Taking a leap, the biome flies toward the two with superhuman agility. Trying to keep up, Zeha says this is how a biome moves in combat. Impressed by its speed, he can barely see the approaching monster's movements. With no chance to react, he's hit by several cuts at once. Trying to fight back, he fires several times while moving backward defensively. Bleeding heavily, the ground near his feet begins to get stained. Wounded and dizzy, he staggers backward, trying his best to stay on his feet. With his vision blurring, he wonders if he lost too much blood during the attack. Then, his mother's voice screams in his mind, telling him to run. Screaming in rage, he unloads the gun at the monster without a second thought. Amid the gunfire, the Bayam leaps toward him with a precise pounce. As he's hit, he's thrown backward by the force of the creature's impact. Despite being badly injured, he stays focused on the monster as it prepares to attack. Seeing the imminent danger, Haru moves forward to intercept the fierce monster's attack. Ignoring the pain, he aims his gun and says he's got the beast. With both hands, he pulls the trigger with all his remaining strength. Hit squarely, the biome clenches its teeth in rage from the shot. A new shot is fired at point-blank range, hitting the enemy up close. Landing several shots, he manages to hit the monster's chest dead on. With its mouth open, something inside the monster begins to glow intensely. Seeing this, Haru looks surprised by what's about to happen. Haru then screams desperately, telling Zeha to get away from the creature as fast as possible. Crossing the alley, an energy arrow flies at high speed toward the monster. Hitting the target dead on, the arrow explodes right on top of the creature. Helping the young man, Haru worriedly asks if he's okay after all that. Lying on the ground, he asks Haru not to shout, because it makes his wound hurt. Approaching the body, he reaches out to touch the arrow stuck in the monster. A voice then warns him to take his hands off it if he doesn't want to lose lose them. From a nearby rooftop, an archer warns that the kill belongs to them. Along with him, 2 other members of the Tiger Butterfly Squad are also revealed. The rest of the team then observes the fallen biome, noticing it's already dying. Turning to the group, the squad leader orders one of them to take the head. Trying to intervene, he yells that it's his, but the creature's head is cut off. Seeing his reaction, 2 members of the group laugh because he doesn't know who they are. Turning his back, the group leader tells him to consider himself lucky to get out alive. Lying on the ground, he calls them thieves and tells them to leave the monster's head. Laughing at the situation, one of the members asks if the leader heard what he said. With an irritated look, one of the team members glares at him furiously. In an instant, he rushes towards Zeha with an extremely fast move. Grabbing and injuring him, he says that since they killed the biome, it's theirs now. The group then starts attacking the fallen young man, as Haru shouts his name. Just then, someone else stops Haru from getting closer, holding him by the shoulder. The leader says he hopes he's learned that this isn't for the weak. As he leaves, he tells Zeha to find another job while he's still alive. Complaining about people who do anything for money, the group finally leaves. Left on the ground, he coughs heavily, unable to get up after everything. With a bruised face, he thinks about how angry he is with the whole situation. Gritting his teeth, he feels frustrated for being so weak in that moment. He then reflects that he was completely useless in the fight for being too slow. He then wonders why he's so weak since he thought he had biome blood. Haru asks if he's upset and says he has an offer to make. He offers to train him, making Zeha question if he's really strong. Zeha explains that since Haru just stood and watched, he assumed he was a bad fighter. Haru then says that 5 low-class biome wouldn't even be able to touch him. Surprised, he asks if that was a weak biome and how Haru isn't shaken. Haru reveals that Huppo is one of the strong ones, and the war hasn't even begun. In the month since the seal was broken, 2,200 people have died. On top of that, unreported disappearances have already reached 5,000. With a hand on his chest, he faces Haru and says he wants to get stronger. The scene changes, and an explosion in District 2 shows this was just the beginning. Fallen and wounded, a girl asks her friend if she's going to die there. Holding the girl, he desperately begs her to stay with him and hang on. Her hand then falls to the ground, showing she couldn't hold on. All around, several monstrous creatures appear, with a giant tiger at the center of it all. With sweat on his face, he asks if they were the ones who killed his dear friends. Staring at the man, the great tiger just growls, preparing for the final attack. At a city port, several gunshots are heard, breaking the silence of the night. In the pouring rain, several bodies are already scattered across the ground. With the gun still in his hand, the man breathes heavily after the intense confrontation. He then complains that they tried to rob him as soon as they saw he was alone. Furious with the situation, he yells and calls the only survivor a monster. On his knees, the man begs for his life, saying he had to do it. Aiming the gun at him, Dogeon prepares to shoot, ignoring his pleas. Desperate, the man screams that he doesn't want to die as he tries to run away. He then shoots without hesitation, hitting the man dead on and knocking him down. With his last words, the man says he didn't want to die like this. He then picks up the money bag and lets it fall to the alley floor. After everything, he simply walks away, alone, up the stairs. Arriving in his room, a voice calls out, asking where he's been. His roommate asks why he left, reminding him that tomorrow is the big day. Sitting down in the chair, he tells his friend not to worry, that everything is fine. In his hand, an old photo sways, leaving him somewhat confused. His face sweaty, he reinforces the idea that he needs to protect his friends. In his mind, the man screams that he won't die, that he wants to live. Looking at his phone, he seems thoughtful and a little shaken by the situation. With a bead of sweat running down, he decides to call his friend Kyung-soo. He then suggests they cancel tomorrow's job, leaving his friend confused. Turning his head, he hesitates for a moment before continuing the conversation. He explains that it's too risky and that he wants a normal life for everyone. Agreeing with his friend, Kyung-soo thanks him for finally getting the message. Later, Kyung-soo sends a message saying he wants to do the job anyway. The others agree, stating that it's their turn to take care of Dogeon. Meanwhile, one of the team members sleeps soundly as his phone vibrates. From a distance, Kyung-soo watches Dogeon sitting alone in the chair, still thoughtful and quiet. On the phone screen, a happy birthday notification appears at midnight. His decision made, he apologizes for not listening, just for today. Before his eyes, the scene shows the stolen money burning completely. Not understanding why, he wonders why all of this had to happen. Amidst the fire, one of his friends lies lifeless on the ground. He just wanted one last job, but the creatures showed up to ruin everything. Growling at each other, the creatures start fighting among themselves over the money. With a powerful blow, one of the creatures throws the other away with great force. Scared, one of them asks if those aren't the creatures called biome. Huddled behind a car, They realize it will be impossible to recover all the money. Angry, he regrets not listening to Do-gyeon's advice earlier. Trembling badly, he calls out to Kyung-soo, not knowing what to do in this situation. Before them, a giant tiger growls, staring at them intensely with great anger. With its mouth dripping, the monster bares its sharp teeth, ready to attack. Screaming to run, Kyung-soo tries to flee as the monster charges towards them. Remembering Do-gyeon, he seems to make an important decision to protect them from the monsters. But in the blink of an eye, one of the creatures attacks him from behind without mercy. From a distance, a large explosion lights up the dark night, drawing attention. Seeing the scene, he calls out to his friends who are surrounded by danger. On his motorcycle, he reads the messages and regrets being ignored by his friends. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he prepares to speed towards them at full throttle. Arriving at the scene, he slams on the brakes of his motorcycle, stopping abruptly. He then gets off the bike and runs towards the burning cars. Looking at the destruction, he wonders what the hell happened here. A voice calls to him, and he recognizes his friend Gayeon lying there. Lying on the ground, she says something is very wrong with her. Looking at her friend, she says she can't move at all. Seeing her condition, he screams his friend's name in pure despair. Holding his friend, she asks if this is her end, if she is going to die. He says no, telling her to look into his eyes and hang on. Mysteriously, the wounds on her body suddenly begin to close on their own. But even so, her head falls back and she stops responding. Surrounded by monsters, he desperately screams for his friend Gayeon to wake up. Staring at the young man, one of the monsters reveals its eyes menacingly. While holding his friend, he asks if they were the ones who killed his dear friends. Then a voice calls out, and he sees his trapped friend asking to be rescued. Laughing at the situation, the monster says this is fun, and very tasty too. His friend falls to the ground, desperately begging for someone to save him. Entering a flashback, he regrets not having lived a more honest life for them. In the memory, he shows regret for not telling them to stop everything. He continues to blame himself for not doing anything before it was too late. He thinks his birthday would have been different if he had made the right choice. Back in the present, his friend apologizes for being such a fool. With a tear rolling down his cheek, he just watches the scene unfold before him. Standing and surrounded, he addresses the monsters all around him. With a determined look, he warns them that they'd better get ready for this. On the ground, his friend apologizes for being such a fool. Grabbing a different gun, he prepares for the great battle ahead. With one of his eyes glowing, he warns them they'd better get ready for this. Growling together, the creatures stare him down, their eyes filled with fury and hatred. Turning to the side, he positions himself to face the group of monsters all by himself. Running towards them, he charges without hesitation to start the big showdown. Two of the creatures fire a beam of energy from their chests at him. Dodging the attacks, he shoots at the monsters while moving with great agility. With his gun in hand, he keeps firing non-stop amidst the chaos. At the same time, one of his friends also shoots at the approaching monsters. Surprised, the tiger wonders how he killed 7 of them in the blink of an eye. His gun then makes a clicking sound, showing that the ammo has finally run out. One of the creatures notices the problem, seeing that the gun suddenly went silent. The creature says it looks like he's out of ammo and moves in to attack. Using the gun's magazine, he strikes the monster's face with a single blow. Laughing, the monster says he's going to play with him just like he did with the others. Out of the corner of his eye, he watches the creature getting closer and closer. He then pulls 2 bullets from his collar, completely surprising his opponent. The tiger is stunned to see he had 2 bullets hidden there. Reloading, he gets ready for the last 2 shots with what he has left. Firing backward, he uses the momentum to push himself away and gain some distance. Furious, the great tiger roars with hatred and charges forward with everything it has. He then turns and calmly waits for the monster to approach for the strike. The monster lunges, baring its teeth and claws with great anger and speed. With his gun ready, he says he hopes this doesn't kill him in the process. As he fires, a huge explosion sends the creature flying with a flash of light. Hit head-on by the blast, the tiger screams in pain from the impact. The monster is then thrown far away, crashing hard onto a bridge. Amidst the smoke, he walks slowly toward the fallen creature on the ground. In disbelief, the monster doesn't understand what that was or how it all happened. Wounded, the monster says that this is not like other human weapons. His gun then overheats, making a loud metallic clang. He says he'll give the monster some time to apologize to his comrades. Annoyed, the monster says he's just wasting what little time he has left. Then a small object falls to the ground, clattering and bouncing a few times. He stares at the tiger, who watches him with an expression of pure surprise and fear. The monster can't believe it's afraid of a simple, fragile human. On the ground, it says this is a disgrace to the tribe and wonders how this could happen. From the sky, a beam of light descends, striking the ground with force. From a distance, he sees 2 men slowly approaching them. One of the men says he sent him there because he was a mid-class bayom. The 2 men then face each other, calling one another by the names Bulti and Maro. The monster wonders if they are enemies and says it has everything under control. Aiming his gun, he prepares to shoot, taking advantage of the enemy's distraction. Hit in the head, the monster falls to the ground, stunned by the unexpected attack. He then shoots the other man, who yells Bolty's name as he's hit. The man's head explodes, but then the flames begin to regenerate it. He realizes the other one won't let his guard down, and that his head is intact. Maro then says they don't have time to be playing around with him here. Apologizing, Bolty says he can't help but play with humans. With his teeth, he breaks the bullet and spits the pieces onto the ground. Surprised, he realizes that these two are also Biom, just like the others. Maro tells him to end this quickly, stating he only needs 3 seconds. A chill runs down his spine as he braces himself for what's about to happen. Bolty then prepares an attack, but the tiger says he can't use that. A large energy field forms, trapping everyone within its range. Bolty tells the tiger to dodge, since he's a Biom and can do it. With no way out, the tiger says he must be kidding. With a look of pity, he just watches the scene unfold before him. A massive energy blast then destroys everything within the area. A piece of cloth falls slowly, signaling that the great battle has finally ended. Suddenly, Haru looks up, sensing a new presence approaching them. He feels the presence of a strong Biom and notices it's different from Hoopo's. Perceiving the preparations, he focuses and says there isn't much time left. Warning Zeha that they need to hurry, he charges toward the giant creature. With his sword in hand, Zeha prepares for the great challenge ahead. At the explosion site, a red light illuminates the entire city sky. Elsewhere, 2 men watch the scene from a distance, feeling the ground shake. One of them says they don't have much time and need to go now. Leaping from the building, they land on the ground with a heavy thud. In a single burst, they race towards the site at high speed. Amidst the debris, Dojion is thrown and lands unconscious on the ground. Coughing up blood, he slowly wakes, trying to understand what happened. Looking around, he realizes he survived the blast and breathes a sigh of relief, his body racked with pain. He tries to get up, but can't move. He then touches his hand, realizing he's too injured to stand. Turning his head, he spots his friend Kyung-soo on the ground and calls his name. As he gets closer, he finds his friend lying lifeless on the ground. Crying, he holds his friend in his arms, mourning the irreparable loss. With a clenched fist, he grips his weapon with all his remaining strength. He swears he'll exterminate every last Biom he comes across. 3 months later, the scene shifts to the city's 3rd district, now in flames. A man runs desperately through the streets, chased by a pack of fierce monsters. Screaming, he complains that this is completely different from what he was told. He keeps running, shouting that no one told him bullets don't affect them. Watching the hunt, one of the creatures says it doesn't know who the hunter is. Another monster then offers to show how things are really done here. Turning to the other creature, he yells for it to watch and learn. Suddenly, a clean strike hits one of the pursuing creatures head on. Hit! The creature turns back, not understanding where the attack came from. Appearing at high speed, Zeha strikes the monster with a precise slash of his sword. With his sword in hand, he prepares to face them all. He then lunges forward with a spin, forcing one of the creatures to leap away. The other monsters complain, saying it let its guard down against a mere human. Zeha tells the man to get to safety, saying they'll handle the rest. Breathing heavily, exhausted, Zeha looks down at his own hands after the attack. Trembling, he realizes how different this is from shooting, his senses now sharply focused. In a flashback, Haru tells him to calm down and stay focused on the fight. Haru advises him to take a deep breath, reminding him that he couldn't even scratch them before. He continues, stating that now Zeha has the power to fight them as an equal. Haru then reminds him not to forget the real reason he's fighting. Back in the present, Zeha focuses on the 3 monsters standing right in front of him. With the image of Hoopo and his parents in his mind, he readies himself to attack. One of the creatures lunges and attacks with its claws, but he dodges. Sliding underneath, he moves with impressive agility to evade the attack. Another monster strikes, but he manages to block the blow with his hands. With focused eyes, he holds his ground, waiting for the right moment to strike back. He then attacks with a swift slash, surprising the enemy with his speed. Twirling his sword, he prepares for his next move, his eyes filled with confidence. Lunging forward, he pierces the creature with a precise and well-executed strike. He then finishes the monster, slicing it in half with a single swing of his sword. Startled, the monster says it has never faced a human stronger than itself. Seeing it has no chance, the creature runs, saying it needs to warn Bolty. Haru calls out to Zeha, who replies that he already knows what to do. He then runs at high speed, leaping between buildings to chase the monster. The creature looks back, glaring angrily at its relentless pursuer. From its mouth, the creature spits a small sphere of energy towards him. The explosion completely disintegrates the monster's body in mid-air. Stopping suddenly, Zeha wonders if the biome just blew up on its own. Do-gyeon then says he didn't know there were still people alive in the 3rd district. Turning to the man, Zeha asks him directly who he is and what he's doing here. Introducing himself as Do-gyeon, he also asks for the names of the other two. Staring at Zeha, Do-gyeon says he smells strongly of a biome. Pointing his gun, he asks if Zeha is really a human or a creature. Do-gyeon insists, saying that he really has a very strong biome scent. Pointing his weapon, he asks if Zeha is truly human or a creature. Flustered, Zeha stammers, asking what he is talking about at that moment. The weapon remains pointed, and he freezes, not knowing what to do. From the side, Do-gyeon keeps his gaze fixed on Zeha, waiting for an answer. Lowering his head, Zeha wonders if he is no longer considered human. In a flashback, it is revealed that his mother was from the Gom tribe, not human. Not knowing how to explain, he stands still with the weapon aimed at him. Lowering the weapon, Haru touches its tip and calls it a sinister object. He then says that they are just hunters and the scent comes from their work. Do-gyeon asks if they hunt with a sword, since he doesn't see any other weapon. He then asks if they have ever heard of biome called Maro or Bulti. Haru says he knows Hupo, but has never heard of those other names. As a warning, he advises them to be careful with the two he mentioned. He reveals that the two are powerful and can even transform into humans. Taking the body, he says he will take what he killed and leave. Haru says they should hurry as well before the sun sets. In a weapon shop, the duo prepares to buy new hunting equipment. Zeha celebrates, telling Haru that he never thought he would have this much money. After the reward, more and more people became professional biome hunters. Looking at his sword, he complains that it was the best he could get with the money. Haru then warns him that the sword is already about to break soon. They receive news that a museum has been attacked with many victims. Haru says they need to get it, referring to a very powerful sword. Zeha asks if he is sure, worried about being arrested if they steal it. Haru says the sword belongs to them and tells Zeha to take him there. The scene then shifts to a night of a full moon with a clear sky. In front of a large museum, the duo prepares for a nighttime infiltration. Nearby, a giant creature takes a step, making the ground tremble slightly. The monster then begins to sniff the air, searching for something nearby. Hidden, one of the Butterfly Tiger Squad members gulps nervously, frightened. He says they are out of ammunition and that there are many biome everywhere. Another member says it is strange, as there is no sign of the police or the army. The leader concludes that something is happening in the city and they need to leave. Suddenly, the earlier creature appears in front of them, growling angrily. With nowhere to run, the group of hunters faces the monster head-on. On the other side, the creature watches them, waiting for the right moment to attack. Haru says it's good that no one is around and suggests grabbing useful items. Hidden, a group of creatures hears the voices and wonders if they are humans. The group of hunters talks about thieves taking advantage of the chaos to steal. Walking down a corridor, Zeha talks about the sword they came to retrieve. Finding it, he says they have finally located it inside the glass case. Suddenly, a loud noise echoes, and Haru warns that the biome are coming. Wielding two swords, Zeha prepares himself and says he can handle one or two of them. Several creatures then appear, growling and surrounding the duo from all sides. With a hand motion, Haru creates an energy barrier around himself. The barrier expands, forming a large protective area against the monsters. The creatures try to force their way through, but are blocked by Haru's barrier. Upon impact, the barrier releases a shockwave and pushes all the biome back. At the same time, Zeha charges toward one of the creatures to attack. He strikes the monster with a sword slash, but something unexpected happens. With the force of the blow, the blade of the sword splits in two. Startled, he shouts as he realizes one of his swords has just broken. Seizing the opportunity, the creature rushes forward at high speed to attack him. With a quick strike, Zeha hits the monster and throws it back. Haru is surrounded but manages to dodge and evade the monster's attacks. Zeha runs toward the sword that was protected inside the museum's glass case. Breaking the glass with a strike, he laments having only that old sword. Wielding the sword, he asks it to hold out until he saves Haru. Jumping down from the upper floor, he shouts for Haru, ready for the rescue. With the ancient sword in his hands, something within him seems to awaken with a smile. Adjusting his grip on the weapon, he prepares for the battle to come. At that moment, the monsters retreat, while he remains standing still with the sword in hand. Fleeing, the Butterfly Tiger Squad runs desperately through a dark and empty corridor. The leader says they barely managed to escape thanks to the distraction caused by the two thieves. While running, one of the squad members complains about the situation they got themselves into. He suddenly stops when he sees Haru running alone toward the danger. Muttering, Haru seems to be saying something as he rushes forward at full speed. The sword in Zeha's hand begins to glow, emitting a powerful energy. Not understanding, He wonders what kind of sword that is and why it shines so brightly. In a flashback, a warrior swears that he will kill the biome with that sword. He says that the sword's memories are now flowing into his mind. The ancient sword then begins to crack completely, breaking its old form. Pieces of the old blade shatter, revealing something new beneath it. Releasing energy, a new blade emerges, showing the weapon's true form. Zeha realizes that the sword has transformed and calls it the Sword of Death. With the sword in hand, he swings it, feeling the power of the new weapon. With glowing eyes, he prepares for battle with renewed determination. With a single strike, he cuts down several creatures at once. Not understanding anything, the creatures wonder what just happened. Moving quickly, one of the monsters rushes toward him for a direct attack. Focused, he says it's not the time to be distracted and that he needs to save Haru. Leaping high into the air, he prepares for his next attack. Landing with the sword in hand, he positions himself for what comes next. With a circular slash, he takes down all the monsters near Haru. Breathing heavily, he pauses for a moment to catch his breath. At that moment, more creatures appear and surround him, leaving him with nowhere to go. Suddenly, he notices that the sword seems to be losing all its power. Feeling the sword weigh as if it were a ton, he struggles to keep holding it up. He then realizes it's not just the sword. His entire body is exhausted. Seeing his weakness, the creatures approach, and he says there are still too many of them. One of the creatures moves stealthily, positioning itself right behind the exhausted young man. At high speed, an unknown object flies past right in front of his face. A large golden creature with chains appears, blocking the attack with its body. With the impact, the creature dissolves and disappears into the air like smoke. Zeha asks if Haru is okay, and Haru tells him to stay focused on the battle. Headbutting Haru, a creature throws him aside with force. Shocked, he shouts as he sees the large golden creature simply vanish. At that moment, one of the monsters takes advantage of the distraction and attacks from behind. The monster approaches, showing its teeth and ready to deliver the final blow. But the attack is blocked by another biome that suddenly appears there. The creature that saved him growls, staring at the other monster with rage and hatred. One of the monsters screams and retreats as smoke begins to rise from it. The monster's body falls to the ground, revealing a new mysterious figure behind it. A young man with a bow and arrow appears, ready to join the battle. Pulling the bowstring, he prepares to shoot with full concentration. Firing arrows, he hits two monsters with impressive and lethal precision. With his head lowered, Zeha seems to recover from the shock of the intense battle. Growling, one of the creatures tries to attack the mysterious archer from behind unnoticed. Zeha shouts, warning the archer that there is a monster right behind him. Surprised, the archer quickly turns to face the approaching threat. With a strike, he hits the monster directly and throws it away. The monster is hurled and crashes hard into a wall, breaking the concrete. Even after the blow, the creature stands up, baring its teeth in anger. But a sword slash cuts through the air, striking the creature directly. With a single strike, Zeha advances and finishes the creature for good. The three group together, and the golden creature reappears to protect Haru and Zeha. Growling, the remaining creatures prepare for one final massive attack. Seeing an opportunity, the monsters retreat, fleeing the battle to save themselves. Surprised, Zeha and Haru realize they have finally survived the great attack. The archer then approaches, observing the duo in silence for a moment. Haru says they need to get the archer out of there, as the place is dangerous. A new voice appears, saying that it seems they have not given up the hunt. With a smile, he says he came back to see what everyone was running from. Supporting the archer, they are surprised to recognize the person who arrived. Taking a few steps forward, the Butterfly Tiger Squad slowly approaches the trio of hunters. The leader warns that they will take everything, and tells them to leave if they don't want to get hurt. One of them approaches and says that their group is quite impressive and valuable. Zeha and Haru carry the archer, imagining how valuable he must be. The leader says he didn't expect to find them there, and that the biome now belonged to them. Zeha says he was the one who took them down and tells them to leave. With a smile, the leader asks if he's really not thinking about fighting. Zeha then says that he was the one who brought the biome there in the first place. The leader agrees and says that even so, he will take the creatures he hunted. Irritated, Zeha calls them thieves and tells Haru he will handle it. Haru tries to stop him, saying he is already at his limit and can't go on. Even exhausted, Zeha feels the sword heavy and his body still in pain. Gripping the sword firmly, he decides he has to do it no matter what. Leaping toward them, he prepares to attack with the sword in hand. The squad leader realizes he won't back down and prepares to shoot. Aiming with one eye, he orders his men to eliminate him. With 2 shots, he fires without hesitation, showing he's not joking. At high speed, 2 other members rush in to join the attack against him. With his sword, Zeha manages to defend himself from the shots with great skill and reflexes. The 2 squad members attack him at the same time, but he defends himself. Glancing sideways, he carefully watches the movements of the 2 enemies approaching him. With his sword in hand, he faces the pair, preparing for a counterattack. Several electric attacks are launched, and he defends against all of them with his sword. The leader wonders how he managed that with such an old and rusty blade. With a serious expression, Zeha prepares for the next round of the intense battle. After the effort, he drops to his knees, completely exhausted and out of strength. With his hand on his neck, he complains that he suddenly can't breathe properly. With a slight smile, the squad leader approaches the fallen young man. He says the boy almost got him for a second, and that he should have run. Pointing his weapon, he prepares to shoot and finish him off for good. Suddenly, the leader's weapon shatters into pieces, surprising everyone there. From a distance, a hooded figure says he has heard enough of that conversation. Holding a weapon, he says he doesn't want to kill anyone during the hunt. He continues, saying they had no choice but to intervene in the fight. Irritated, the squad leader shouts the name Do-geon, surprised by his appearance. Do-geon says he is an outlaw and that he wouldn't hesitate to shoot. The squad leader decides to retreat, saying it's risky to confront Do-geon there. As he leaves, he warns that they will pay for getting in his way. Zeha thanks them for saving them, and Do-geon says there's no need to thank him. He says he was just making up for pointing his weapon at him earlier. With a smile, Zeha says goodbye and thanks him once again for the help. Suddenly, the archer collapses to the ground, and Zeha shouts his name. Worried, Do-geon says his hands are full and that he needs help with the boy. He then asks if there is no one there who can help with the injured man. The scene changes, showing a night sky and a calm, silent city. From one of the buildings, a lit window stands out in the darkness. Inside a room, the 4 gather, and one of them complains about the size of the place. Haru tells him not to speak badly about the house. As small as it has everything. Do-geon asks if Zeha was really thinking about fighting their squad. Confused, Zeha asks who the butterflies he mentioned are. Do-geon explains that it's a violent group and that it's better not to get involved with them. With a smile, Zeha says he got the message and that the man seems nice. Lying down, the archer slowly begins to wake up, still a bit confused and disoriented. Opening his eyes, he wonders where he is and what happened to him. Haru tells him that he is at his house and that he doesn't need to worry. The archer asks what happened to the biome, and Haru says they took care of them. He then repeats the word biome, as if remembering something. Next, he asks if they saw a girl there during the chaos. He describes her, and Do-geon says he shouldn't be looking for someone there. The archer explains that he heard a rumor that a specific biome would appear there. He describes the biome, mentioning a bat tattoo on its back. Zeha says there was no one else there, and asks if the girl is his sister. Do-geon squeezes the archer's shoulder, showing interest in his story. He asks if the biome he is looking for has a scar on its eye. Do-geon reveals that he is also looking for him, and wants to know how he found out. The archer says that the Butterfly Tiger Squad ordered their team to run when they saw him. Picking up his bow, he says he will leave now and thanks them for saving him. Introducing himself as Juan, he asks them to let him know if they find his sister. Opening the door, Zeha asks him to wait a moment and not leave yet. Handing him a bag, he tells Juan to eat and recover his strength before going. With a smile, Zeha watches him, showing he is happy to help. Juan takes the bag and thanks him for the kindness, still a bit shy about everything. The scene shifts to a city in flames, with the sky covered in dark smoke. A sign shows they are near the public museum of the city of Sinsi. At the location, a group of hunters says they can't retreat anymore and must fight. One of them shouts that they won't last, and that everyone will die there. Suddenly, one of the hunters is struck by a surprise and unexpected attack. Another hunter is caught off guard by a very fast strike. Shocked, he wonders how in the world this could be happening in that place. He is surprised, as he has never heard of biome moving in groups. Leading the attack, a powerful creature stares at the hunters with a threatening gaze. Shifting to a city in flames, the night is filled with chaos and destruction. Nearby, a sign shows that the public museum is only 500 meters away. A group of hunters then orders that they can no longer retreat under any circumstances. One of them shouts desperately, saying that at this rate they will all end up dying there. Suddenly, one of the hunters is struck directly by a very fast attack. Right after that, the same hunter is caught off guard by another blow. Shocked by the scene, He wonders how all of this could be happening now. He is surprised, as he had never heard of Biom moving in groups. Leading them all, a powerful creature stares at the hunters with a threatening gaze. Making a quick movement, one of the hunters prepares to use some kind of special ability. Irritated by the situation, he shouts at the monsters in front of him, but another hunter is caught off guard and struck by several fatal blows. At that moment, a man appears and attacks, causing the ground to crack from the impact. As the dust rises, the ground trembles, and thick smoke spreads across the area. With his claws glowing, he announces that the area is finally clear of enemies. Hoopo then congratulates Maro on the good work he has done there. Soon, several other Biom gather with them, forming a large army of monsters. Hoopo orders Maro to check the casualties and prepare to move again. Trembling, a hunter holds a bomb, preparing for a desperate suicidal attack. With a look of hatred, he faces the monsters, ready to sacrifice himself. From a distance, Hoopo watches the hunter coughing and crawling through the smoke. Beside him, Bolty looks at him with a smile, surprised that he is still alive. With a sideways grin, he observes the hunter with a challenging gaze. A scar on Bolty's right eye is revealed, showing his identity to everyone. With a smile, he says that the hunter is very lucky to still be alive. Bolty says the others didn't even notice and that it's quite boring. With a threatening look, he says he will let the hunter scream while he lives. He then forms a fireball, saying it's more fun than Maro's way. Struck directly, the hunter can only let out a scream of pain. Burning, he cries out as the flames rapidly consume his entire body. Screaming, the man burns in agony while Bolty enjoys the scene. From afar, Hoopo simply watches without showing any emotion. Bolty then extinguishes the fire with a simple snap of his fingers. From the side, Hoopo observes the scene with a look of disapproval. In a flashback, a man screams in pain while being tortured in a ritual. Among others, a man is struck by a spear attack. With a serious expression, Hoopo watches the scene unfolding before him. Touching Bolty's shoulder, he seems to give him a direct order. Hoopo asks if he plans to lower himself to the level of the beasts they hunt. He then says that one should not find joy in killing others. Advising him, he says that his revenge should be swift and painless. With a quick strike, the earlier hunter has his head cut off instantly. He finishes by saying that the pain inflicted on enemies eventually returns to them. Hoopo says they cannot repeat the events from 4,000 years ago. He then orders his men to move to the next district of the city. He also orders Maro and Bolty to scout District 7. Clenching his fist, he tells them to conquer the district before dawn. Leading the group, he gives the order to annihilate all descendants of the Gom. Elsewhere, a hole opens in the ground with a deafening noise. Bolty says he cannot understand Hoopo and that the Gom tribe made them suffer. He continues, saying that pain is what truly completes revenge. Maro says it is the master's order, but Bolty still seems dissatisfied. A sign shows they are 1 kilometer from the intersection of District 7. Bolty turns back, sensing a strange presence approaching them. A dark energy begins to emanate, surrounding the figure of a mysterious hooded man. The figure says they must hold resentment toward humans for everything that happened. Floating in the air, he says he has come to make an offer that will benefit everyone. Maro says they don't have time to pay attention to him right now. Agreeing, Bolty turns and charges with his claws, ready to attack. The hooded figure then runs at high speed, quickly moving away. With a spinning attack, Bolty tries to strike him, but he dodges. Maro glances at him, surprised by the figure's speed and agility. A massive explosion occurs, making the building's ground tremble. Amid the smoke, a large cloud of dust rises on the rooftop. Lying on the ground, the figure says it was a sudden and unexpected attack. With a slight smile, he stands up, showing the attack had no effect. He then says that this makes things much easier for him to talk. Bolty is surprised, unable to understand how he stopped the attack so easily. Irritated, Maro tries to break free, saying the situation is humiliating. Using his claws, he tries to free himself but cannot move at all. He continues struggling, but the energy restraining him is far too strong. The hooded figure says it is useless and that he is not strong enough. Shattering the ground, the figure restrains Maro even more tightly. Maro then realizes that the figure before him is not an ordinary human. The figure says that is irrelevant and that he only came to make an offer. With a smile, he asks if the two of them would like to hear his proposal. At the squad headquarters, tension fills their workplace. The leader says that they were the ones who took the rewards and threatened them. A man says he won't hold him responsible, but in return he wants a favor. With a smile, Commander Dongcheol says he wants him to bring them to him. The squad leader is surprised, as they are exactly the kind of talent they need. Leaving the room, he shuts the door with a dull metallic thud. With his fist clenched, he wonders if they really need those two. He complains, saying they deserve to die, but the order is to bring them in alive. Another team leader tells him to stop calling him sir and to relax. He then asks what that is that the leader is holding in his hand. Blinking, he shows a slight sign of nervousness and concern. With a smile, He calls the other leader and asks if he is available. He then asks who they are, and the other replies that they are Biom hunters. Explaining the situation, he reveals that the commander wants to meet the two thieves. He finishes by saying that evil must be refined and removed from society. With his hand on his ear, Zeha feels a discomfort and lightly scratches it. Scratching his ear, he wonders if someone might be talking badly about him. Do-jaeon says he's going to get snacks, and Haru and Zeha place their orders. Bringing the drinks, he reads news about the group announcing they will cover the costs. Drinking a soda, he says he got used to the presence and almost forgot. Zeha asks how long Do-geon plans to stay, and he replies that he will cooperate. With a surprised look, Zeha asks if he isn't just feeling lonely. Do-geon remains silent for a moment, just staring at his bowl of food. Changing the subject, he asks if they heard about what happened in District 6. He continues, saying that not even the armed forces can handle the current situation. Zeha then asks why they are attacking the districts in consecutive order, one by one. Do-geon says he wonders the same thing, and that it's as if he concludes by saying it feels like they are playing a game with all of them. Haru says they are safe in District 10, and Zeha scolds him. While eating, Do-geon makes a compliment, and Zeha tells him not to talk with his mouth full. With a sideways glance, Zeha wonders what is happening at that moment. Do-geon watches him, also questioning the strange situation unfolding there. With glowing eyes, Haru seems to sense a presence approaching them quickly. He then says that it seems the Biom have finally arrived at their location. At an orphanage, a large black smoke approaches, frightening everyone there. One of the teachers shouts, telling the children to stay behind them for protection. Maro says he made the right decision in choosing to follow his friend Bolty. He says the mysterious partner is more useful than he had imagined. One of the monsters complains, saying the others are busy with boring matters. Another monster offers to have fun with some of them since they can't take them. Frightened, one of the teachers shrinks back, afraid of what might happen. Trapped in a web of energy, the monster wonders what that is. With his sword, Zeha prepares to attack the monster caught in the trap. He then approaches and asks if the teacher and the children are okay. After saving everyone, he wonders where Haru and Do-geon are. A little boy calls him, pulling on his sleeve. Zeha kneels down and asks what's wrong and if he is hurt. The boy points, saying that one of his friends is still trapped on the second floor. A creature watches the place, standing still and alert to any movement. Hidden, a little girl trembles in fear, softly calling for her parents. A shadow suddenly appears, and she curls up, terrified of what's coming. The creature roars, showing its teeth and claws in a threatening way. The monster then enters the room, and a man stands at the doorway watching. With a sideways glance, the creature seems to notice the man's presence. The man says he didn't know there were still humans in that deserted place. Sighing, Zeha prepares to go upstairs and rescue the child left behind. Taking a leap, he uses the momentum to quickly reach the upper floor. He then throws himself toward the window, preparing to enter the room. With his arms crossed, he braces himself to break through the glass. Shattering the window, he bursts into the room, ready for the rescue. Entering the room, he suddenly stops upon noticing something completely unexpected inside. Looking down, he sees the man standing among the monsters that have already been defeated. Turning to the newcomer, the man directly asks who he is and what he is doing there. The monster enters the room, getting closer and closer to the crying little girl. He says he didn't know there were still humans and that he is lucky. Leaping to attack, he says that today is his lucky day to find prey. With a gleam in his eyes, the man prepares to fight the creature. With a swift move, he dodges and tells the monster to go back where it came from. He says he will return to what he was doing, referring to the little girl there. Looking at the girl, the monster prepares to continue the attack it started. Struck on the head, it is surprised by a blow that throws it aside. With both monsters down, the man positions himself to protect the frightened girl. In disbelief, the creature gulps, shocked by the mysterious man's strength. With a massive weapon, the man reveals himself to be a highly skilled Biom hunter. He sighs, showing some exhaustion from the battle he just fought. But a shadow appears, and he realizes one of the monsters has gotten back up. The creature says that he is the one responsible, and that he will have to pay. Leading the group, the monster orders everyone to attack the hunter at once. With a serious face, it gives the command for the monsters to kill him. Jumping into battle, the man charges forward to fight the group alone. Elsewhere, a hunter runs desperately to escape a group of Biom. With a single strike, he defeats all the monsters in his path. Wiping her tears, the little girl hears him say not to worry anymore. He then says he will make sure she can return home safely. The creature laughs, amused by the scene unfolding before it. It says it will call itself a kitten if the hunter manages to survive survive. Back in the present, the earlier monster lies defeated on the ground. In the room, all the monsters have been defeated by the hunter and Zeha together. With a sideways glance, Zeha observes the mysterious man who saved them. With his weapon on his shoulder, he once again asks who the mysterious young man is. The tip of his weapon breaks, and he realizes the object has been damaged. Surrounded, Zeha realizes the situation has become much more complicated than he expected. Outside, the two rescued children hug each other, happy and relieved. Praising Juwon's strength, Zeha introduces himself and asks for his name. Shaking his hand, the hunter introduces himself as Juwon. From afar, Haru and Dogyeon arrive running, worried about what happened. Dogyeon asks where the Baeom are, and Haru says he can no longer sense them. Zeha says they have already taken care of them, and asks why they took so long. Zeha introduces Juwon, and Haru says he is a good and just man. With a sideways glance, Haru suddenly seems to notice something strange about Juwon. Haru then asks Dogyeon why he is showing so much anger. Pointing his weapon at Juwon, tension fills the air between the hunters. Dogyeon tells Juwon to stay away from Zeha, saying he smells like a Baeom. Not understanding the accusation, Juwon simply looks at him with surprise. With his weapon in hand, Dogyeon directly asks what he really is. He raises the weapon, preparing to shoot at any moment. Haru tells him to stop greeting people with a weapon in hand. Dogyeon insists, saying he smells like a Baeom, but Haru disagrees. Zeha says he's a good guy, and Juwon calls him interesting. Zeha asks if he knows a Baeom named Bulti, and Juwon seems to recognize the name. Suddenly, a shot grazes past and hits the ground near their feet. Dogyeon floats in the air, held back by Haru, who prevents him from attacking again. Juwon says he cannot free someone who shoots at people like that. With a smile, he seems amused by the situation unfolding. He then reveals that Bulti killed his girlfriend and that he seeks revenge. Advising Dogyeon, he says he needs to lose the bad habit of shooting. Haru tells Dogyeon to apologize, saying it is virtuous to be corrected by others. Blinking, Dogyeon shows that he didn't like the situation at all. Juwon says his weapon broke, and that it's time to look for a new one. With a serious look, Juwon says that he leaves him no choice but to. Dogyeon invites Juwon to come along, and Haru says that's just how he is. Haru explains that Dogyeon doesn't know how to express his feelings properly. The scene shifts, showing a city at night with building lights shining. Opening a manhole in the middle of the street, the scene changes to a very dark place. With their hands tied, several humans are taken as prisoners through an underground corridor. Bulti tells the man not to worry, as they won't kill him yet. He then reveals that everyone there will live a new life in that dark place. Inside, the prisoners are forced to work under the watch of the creatures. Behind bars, other humans are imprisoned, waiting for the worst possible fate. All of them are locked in a large cell, from which there seems to be no escape. Finally, Bulti reveals that they will live there as if they were nothing more than livestock. Desperate, the prisoners try to escape, but there is nowhere to run. Other prisoners, terrified, cower in the corner of the cell, afraid of what is to come. Pulling a man by the rope, Bulti orders him to open the storage immediately. The man begs for his life, and Bulti says every human says the same thing. He says he only wants the screams and the pain, telling the man to wait. The man trembles in fear, gripping the cell bars with sweaty hands. Maro then arrives, and Bulti says he has just returned from the reconnaissance mission. Bulti says he likes the place because he can do whatever he wants with humans. He wonders if they can trust the suspicious figure who sent them there. Maro tells them to just enjoy the revenge and the feast of humans for now. He continues, saying that once they recover their powers and claws, they will act. He finishes by saying they will kill the mysterious figure along with the other humans. Laughing, Bulti says they will have the last laugh in the end. With a serious expression, Maro says he is eager to meet the one called Zahu. Inside the cell, the prisoners look on in fear, not knowing what to do to escape. Inside the cell, the prisoners move away from Zahu, who sits alone in the corner. Bulti complains that he hasn't eaten any of the humans offered to him. He says that Zahu hasn't reached his limit yet and calls him weak. Bulti says he will release him if he eats, but Zahu refuses to obey. Zahu says they could live in harmony, as they no longer need humans. Bulti says they started this and asks if he has forgotten the Gom's betrayal. Angry, he shouts at Zahu, who recoils in fear at the sudden outburst. He says they spent countless years in the shadow world because of the Gom. Zahu then asks if that is why he decided to take Narai's life. With a sideways glance, Bulti is surprised by the question and falls silent. He reveals that Narai pointed her weapon at them because of mere humans. Bulti says that anyone who sides with humans is against them, no exceptions. He then asks one last time if Zahu will eat a human or not. Clenching his teeth, Zahu shouts that he cannot and will not eat them. Bulti says that leaves him no choice but to take drastic measures. The scene changes, showing a man with his wrists bound in iron shackles. Dragging the chains, he walks with difficulty, limping on an injured leg. Tired and wounded, he breathes heavily. his face covered in dirt and blood. Zahu asks what he did, and Bulti says he prepared him especially for him. He says the man survived torture without making a sound, so he kept him. Throwing the man to the ground, he says he will let Zahu have him. Smelling the man, Zahu seems to detect a very familiar and strange scent. Bulti then asks if his mouth isn't watering at that prey. He tells Zahu to take a bite of the soft flesh, trying to provoke his instincts. With a strike, Zahu hits the ground, releasing all his anger and frustration. As the dust rises, thick smoke fills the entire area. Breathing heavily, he shouts that he will not become a beast like Bulti. From behind the bars, Bulti simply watches him with a mocking, indifferent look. Turning his back, he tells Zahu to do whatever he wants and leaves. Panting, the tortured man leans against the wall, trying to catch his breath. The scene shifts to a shopping mall in the old district of the city of Cincy. A saleswoman wonders what the man is holding as he walks past her. With a mask in his hand, a man walks through the busy streets of the big city. Using the mask, he sees that a man sitting there was once a king. He continues, seeing that another man was a governor and a woman, an inspector. Putting on the mask, he says it is exactly as he had thought before. He then reveals that with the mask, he can see people's past lives. But when he looks at the group, he is surprised by something he has never seen. He realizes that those people have exactly the same past lives as the others. Determined, he says he needs to follow the group to understand what is happening. In a flashback, a man introduces himself as Sain, an ordinary and normal young man. He explains that one day, a brutal crime took place on Mount Inwang in the city. The incident sparked a war between hunters and the creatures known as biome. But everything changed when he encountered a biome for the first time in his life. He was devoured alive and remained trapped inside the creature's stomach for many days. Pain and fear consumed him, making it hard to stay conscious in there. When he thought it was the end, he saw a light and tried to reach it. The light then caused a massive explosion, completely engulfing the creature. Amid the explosion, he found himself floating, unable to understand what was happening. He watches the scene, the bright light illuminating one side of his face. On the ground, a strange and mysterious object is revealed within the intense light. He sees himself standing there, with the object lying near his feet. Back in the present, he trembles in bed, frightened and shaken by the rain. Sitting on the bed, he shakes, unable to believe he made it out alive. Even after escaping, he suffered constant episodes of fear and anxiety. After calming down, he wonders what that item he picked up really is. Splashing water on his face, he tries to compose himself after everything he went through. He realizes the item looks like a mask, and that it is a fragment of a biome. With the mask, he has a vision of a warrior who promises to lead the way. In the vision, the warrior swears to bring peace to his land once and for all. He sees a mixed-blood man fighting the biome with his sword, but the man seemed to be in agony for some reason, even while fighting bravely. Sitting on the floor, he wonders if he has lost his mind and is seeing things. Since then, he began observing people using the power of the biome mask. Over time, he discovered that the item contained the power to see the past. On another day, he puts on the mask to continue his routine observation, but he encounters people who had the same past life as his own. Holding the mask, he says it troubles him and that he needs answers. Determined, he says he must follow them to understand what is happening. In a weapon shop, the group prepares for another hunt for the biome. Surprised, he shouts at the vendor, unable to believe what he just heard. The vendor says the price is high because it is a rare item on the market. He continues, saying the weapon is light, durable, and a luxury item. Dogion says the price was different before, but the vendor claims the market has changed. Annoyed, Dogion questions the price, and the vendor tells him not to buy it if he doesn't want to. Scene observes the scene and realizes there is something very wrong with that weapon. Intervening, he says that is no reason to deceive the store's customers. He reveals that the weapon was a free bonus, and that the vendor is being dishonest. With the weapon in hand, Do-gyeon pressures the vendor, who has no choice but to give in. The vendor offers the weapon for 800 million, but Sane says it is 300 million. Sane says the spear was a bonus, and that 300 million is a fair price. Other hunters arrive, and the vendor complains that he is being unreasonable. The other hunters begin to wonder if the vendor also deceived them in the past. Realizing he is in trouble, the vendor understands the situation has become very bad. Do-gyeon and Seen watch the vendor, who regrets losing such a big sale. Irritated, the vendor throws the weapon onto the counter and tells them to take it and leave. Leaving the shop, the group celebrates having bought the weapon at a good price. Juan thanks them for the help and reveals he has never hunted a biome before. Sane invites him to join them on the hunt, but he is left speechless. Zeha invites him to eat, but Sane thinks it is not a good time. Deep in thought, Sane wonders what kind of past life that was that he saw. He thinks it might have been a war veteran, as it seemed like one. Suddenly, Juan appears staggering, approaching the group in a strange and slow manner. He reaches them, and Zeha turns around, surprised by his appearance. Zeha asks how he found them, and why he is so badly injured. Juan says he was looking for them, and that he needs everyone's help. Clenching his fist, he says no one believes his words about the kidnapping. He reveals that he saw the Biom abducting people, and that Bulti was there too. Dujian and Juan are shocked to hear Bulti's name mentioned again. With trembling hands, he says that his sister may have been taken alive. With his hand on his chest, he begs them to help him save his sister. The scene shifts to a city at night, the building lights shining brightly. On a busy street, the group walks together, watching the crowds. Juan says this is where the Biom have been hiding all along. He points to a large building, an abandoned department store. Zeha is surprised, and Juan says he saw what happened with his own eyes. He explains that he saw a group of Biom loading humans onto a truck instead of devouring them. Curious about the scene, he decided to follow the truck to see where it was going. With sweat on his face, he says that's where he found the Biom who took his sister. He reveals Bulti was there, leading the human kidnapping operation. With a sideways glance, Dogian says the plan is to use the same methods. Two guards appear in the parking lot, making their nightly rounds. Suddenly, Dogian and Haru appear, startling the guards with their presence. Before they can react, Haru binds them with a golden energy rope. Meanwhile, the truck Juan followed enters the building's underground parking garage. With the guards subdued, a member of the group says he'll take care of it. Stopping at the gate, the truck driver slams on the brakes to avoid a collision. Tapping on the window, the disguised guard asks the driver to stop the vehicle. Rolling down the window, the driver asks if there's something wrong with the truck. Nervously, the driver says he'll get the papers and opens the glove compartment. The guard hands back the document, saying everything is fine and apologizing for the trouble. In the passenger seat, the creature wonders why the guard is being so annoying. With a menacing look, the creature wonders if it should just finish him off. The driver looks to the side, noticing strange movement outside. In the rearview mirror, he sees Juan approaching at high speed to attack the truck. With his bow in hand, Juan prepares to shoot and stop the truck, but he's caught off guard by an attack that shatters the truck's windshield. The truck then pushes forward, entering the garage and heading for the building's sub-level. As the truck opens, the kidnapped people are shocked to see monsters waiting for them. Sitting in a circle, the humans are surrounded by the creatures with nowhere to escape. From above, the group of hunters watches the scene, ready for the big rescue. The truck stops, and the sound of something moving is heard in the distance. Stationary and silent, the truck waits for an order to proceed. Meanwhile, two Biom wait in front of an elevator in the building's basement. One of them complains, wondering why the others are taking so long to arrive. The elevator arrives, and the monster celebrates that they finally reached the right floor. As the door opens, he complains about the delay but says he understands the fun. With a shocked expression, he stops talking when he sees who's inside the elevator. Pointing his gun, Dojian just says hi with a smirk. Elsewhere, the sound of something falling breaks the silence of a dark hallway. Bulti asks if Zahu hasn't eaten yet, noticing he looks weak. He asks if Zahu is trying to starve himself, but Zahu refuses to eat. With a threatening look, he says, if Zahu won't eat, they will. Approaching the prisoners, he prepares to suddenly attack one of them. Desperate, the prisoners plead for their lives, saying they don't taste good. One of them points to Zahu, suggesting the monster eat him instead. The man says he's strong and would surely taste better. With a sideways glance, the monster seems to consider the prisoner's suggestion. He laughs, saying he knew Zahu's tribe was nothing but scum. The monster says he's happy to see they're still the same as always. Zahu tells them to stop, as humans are not food for them. He continues, saying it's best to stop this kind of behavior now. Angry, the monster strikes him, throwing him violently to the ground. He says he doesn't know why Zahu is on their side, but warns him. He finishes, saying Zahu better eat them, unless he wants to die. Lying on the floor, the man begs for water, still recovering from being tortured. Zahu approaches and asks if the human is awake and conscious. He says he wishes he had something to feed him, but there's nothing there. With a clenched fist, Zahu seems to make a difficult and very important decision. Cutting his hand, he offers his own blood for the man to drink. The man drinks the blood, and Zahu watches him, worried about his condition. Zahu apologizes, saying this is all he has to offer. Suddenly, steam starts rising from the man's body, healing his wounds. Surprised by the sight, Zahu wonders what is happening to the man. With his body glowing, the man begins to regenerate very quickly. In disbelief, Zahu wonders how a mere human can do that on his own.